What do you think the ultimate cause? I know there's probably multiple causes, but what do you think the ultimate cause is of why so many people are obese in America?
This is the big question, man.
So actually, this is a good place to talk about mechanisms. Do you think seed oils can cause obesity, and if so, how?
Okay, so let me pull up another study that I found this one in preparation for this podcast. I think you guys will find this interesting. So there are a couple of things here. Could
endocannabinoids?
Yeah. So this one is interesting. This is a trial from 2020, and it looked at levels of 2-AG and anandamide. These are endocannabinoids, similar to cannabinoids that you would get from like marijuana, in 183 obese females from Iran. And what they found was that there were 3 major dietary patterns: Western, healthy, and traditional. And the obese women who had the Western dietary pattern had higher levels of 2-AG and AEA. The reason this is interesting to me is because these can affect appetite and satiety in a negative way, right? So you get the munchies from smoking weed, right?
Yeah.
And conversely, there's a drug called rimonabant, which is a CB1 antagonist. So cannabinoid receptor 1 antagonist is rimonabant. Rimonabant works very well to reverse cardiovascular disease in trials. It reverses obesity in many ways. It minimizes appetite in a lot of ways. From a psychiatric level, it creates suicidality.
Oh, shit.
So it's off the market in the United States. But when you block the CB1 receptor mechanistically with rimonabant, you get positive metabolic outcomes. So it's interesting to me that in obese women who eat a Western dietary pattern, which of course encompasses many things, but will include seed oils, also processed grains, processed sugars.
Right.
That does correlate with higher levels of endogenous cannabinoids, 2-AG and AEA. 2-AG and AEA are some of the breakdown downstream products from arachidonic acid from linoleic acid. So it's possible, right, that in predisposed individuals, potentially individuals who have polymorphisms in D6D, right, so fatty acid desaturase 2, or who are predisposed, is it possible that consuming linoleic acid or Western foods increases the production of 2-AG and AEA, leading to appetite dysregulation? It certainly happens in animal models. If you give mice or rats linoleic acid, you see levels of 2-AG and AEA rise. I can show you that study too. No one's actually done that study in humans. Nobody has looked at levels of 2-AG and AEA in humans when they give linoleic acid. But it's interesting that in obese females with a Western dietary pattern, you can correlate that with higher levels of these. So this is just one putative mechanism by which seed oils may affect satiety.
Interesting.
But when we're looking at, I'll say this and then I'll pause, Nick, and let you add whatever you want. When we're looking at obesity, I think that appetite and satiety are key, right? Because you probably know this, Danny. It's pretty hard to overeat unprocessed food. Like when you're eating steak and squash, you just get full.
Yes.
And you're kind of done.
Right.
But something different happens when you add a potato chip or whatever. Like
it's like you can't stop. It's like crack.
A Coca-Cola, right? Something, and this may tie into leptin and fat and the hypothalamus, and Nick can talk to that as well if he wants. But like there is some saboteur to our satiety, I believe, within our food supply, right? It's not, Nick said he doesn't believe it's calories that are making us obese, and I would agree with that. My take on that is it's the quality of the food you eat, not the amount of calories you eat, because I sort of feel, and this is again just my perspective, that if you are eating generally high quality unprocessed food, you will become a predominantly healthy human and your satiety mechanisms will be intact and you will be unlikely to overeat. If I put a gun to your head and force you to overeat, I could, right? But generally speaking, in a free living human, you're not going to overeat steak, potato, right? Unprocessed food. You're going to overeat chips, Tostitos, Takis, brownies, Coca-Cola. So there's something going on with satiety. So when I saw this, I was like, that's really interesting. Is it possible, again, just a possible putative mechanism, that some people are more predisposed to this? Western dietary patterns affect the levels of these endogenous cannabinoids and make us hungrier. There are lots of other potential mechanisms by which seed oils may affect obesity, but that's just one of them that I thought was cool.
I think it's an interesting hypothesis. I want to, you would agree, I don't mean this to be offensive, but that is stretching Do you think?
Well, I mean, you see higher levels of these in women with a Western dietary pattern. In animal models, giving linoleic acid leads to higher levels of 2-AG and AEA. I think every piece is there. In studies where the levels of linoleic acid are decreased, you can see these also go down.
Let me phrase this a different way.
When
then.
people lose weight, these go down.
Let me put it a different way then. Even if this is part of the puzzle, what percentage would you attribute the obesity epidemic to this mechanism and then seed oils in general?
Who knows? Who knows? It's impossible I can't tease that out, right? Because seed oils, most of the time, co-occur with other things, right? So broadly speaking, I think that we can take a step back and say, we can all probably agree that a Western dietary pattern is harmful for humans. A Western dietary pattern is essentially, you can think of the epitome like a piece of, like a processed sweet roll of bread, right? It's processed flour, processed sugar, processed seed oils, potentially some dyes, some dough conditioners, and some preservatives. We know that that is a metabolic nightmare for humans. And so if we try and tease it out, it's difficult to do that, right? We have these randomized controlled trials where we're looking at saturated fats versus seed oils specifically. But I think it's impossible for me to attribute specifically to seed oils. I think that when I look at the evidence on balance, seed oils look to be harmful for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask a few, this is really helpful. I think people are going to appreciate hearing this from you. You have a big following, a lot of clout. That's easy to name. So I'm going to ask you some, like, on a scale of 0 to 10, how confident are you?
Okay.
So on a scale of 0 to 10, how confident are you that linoleic acid can cause obesity in humans?
Now, obesity wouldn't be the first outcome that I would think of. When I think of linoleic acid, the thing I'm most concerned about are, the two things I'm most concerned about are propensity for LDL oxidation and incident coronary artery disease.
Okay.
And downstream effects of oxlams. So then obesity is just more complex.
All right. So we'll start with negative downstream effects on LDL oxidation and production of oxlams. 0 to 10. How confident?
Those are two different outcomes.
Oxidation of LDL.
Pretty confident. There's
Give me a number.
8 to 9, multiple randomized controlled trials showing that more linoleic acid leads to higher levels of oxidation of LDL.
And how about obesity, out of curiosity? And if it's a 2, then say 2.
Obesity is it's just such a complicated thing, right? So is your question, what contribution to obesity do seed oils have? Or
omega-6, and then I'm going to ask about seed oils. Those are two different questions.
Oh, okay. So you're asking about omega-6.
Omega-6.
Well, I guess, I don't know that we can necessarily differentiate those because omega-6 don't occur, like, are you talking about like walnuts?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
no, I don't think walnuts cause obesity much.
But to be clear, like 3 ounces of walnuts is something like 32,000 milligrams of omega-6. There's a ton of omega-6.
Let's check that.
Yeah. Steve, you want to check how much omega-6 is in an ounce of walnuts? I think it's something like 10,000 plus milligrams.
Well, that's less than a tablespoon, but okay. I mean, if we're talking grams, right?
Okay, 10 grams.
10 grams, yeah.
Of just linoleic acid.
Yeah.
An ounce of walnuts contains roughly 10.8 grams of omega-6 fatty acids.
Yeah. Wow. Sure.
So, and I think I understand your position on this, but I don't think most people do. This is why I'm asking the question, not to be a dick.
It also contains 2.5 grams of omega-3s.
ALA. Maybe we can talk about that later. But okay, so if somebody were to consume 4 ounces of walnuts, that's like, on the order of 43, 44 grams of just linoleic acid.
Right.
So that's going to be, multiple, like near almost 400 calories from just linoleic acid. You're on 2,000 calorie diet. That is 20% of your calories from linoleic acid. So could 4 ounces of walnuts be bad for you? Cause obesity?
I think it depends on the context. Yeah. I think that in general, if we're talking about walnuts specifically,
maybe. You're a very unconfident, this is interesting maybe, but we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay. I think that's useful to hear. Now,
and again, like the walnuts conversation is very different than the seed oil conversation.
I agree. But the reason I'm asking these questions so explicitly, again, not just to give you a hard time, but because I think we understand the distinction in our minds. I just don't think it gets discussed. Like, I have literally, the degree of domino chain logic creep that you see is like, okay, highly oxidized processed seed oils are bad. Then it's omega-6 are all bad. Then it's polyunsaturated fats. They're fragile and they're bad for you. I've literally had me say that like have people tell me that Quest candy bars, non-ironically, are healthier than sardines because they're high in PUFA. And it's just like, but
sardines are high in PUFA, or Quest candy bars are high in PUFA?
Sardines, they have omega-3. So like,
oh well, yeah.
I'm just saying that is at the extreme end of the interpretation.
Sure,
but triage point 1, if people get nothing out of it, is linoleic acid, omega-6 in whole food is very different than the heated processed stuff. Right?
It's certainly going to occur with many other cofactors, vitamin E, etc.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But also there's going to be, just to complete the picture on what happens once it's in the body, even aside from outside, you mentioned obesity. One thing I think is really interesting as a hypothesis is, could a certain metabolic state, let's call it obesity, make you more susceptible to omega-6? So you talked about LDL oxidation. One enzyme and a biomarker, you can go to Quest or LabCorp and get this measured. It's called myeloperoxidase, MPO. Myeloperoxidase is really interesting because it increases cardiovascular risk in several ways. One way is increasing the oxidation of LDL from within the vessels. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, it's produced by fat, actually around blood vessels. It's called perivascular adipose tissue. It decreases fat browning and decreases energy expenditure, at least in animals, and then decreases adiponectin, which is, adiponectin is kind of like a yoga class for your arteries. So basically this fat-produced hormone that does go up in obesity makes blood vessels stiffer, oxidizes LDL. So just the oxidation effect, if you have an environment where you're more susceptible to oxidation, have higher levels of this enzyme because you have more fat tissue secreting it, you might be more susceptible to damage from quote unquote excess omega-6 versus, say, you're lean, healthy, and on a ketogenic diet. Linoleic acid is incredibly ketogenic. Turns into, like, I can boost my ketone levels with sesame oil over 20 hours to like 6 millimole.
Yeah, whether that has any clinical relevance is questionable.
The point is, whether we're talking about 13 dihomia, I guess we're calling it, oxidation by myeloperoxidase, generation of 4-HNE turning into ketones, this biomolecule has so many paths.
Sure, linoleic acid can go a lot of different places.
And the metabolic milieu, your metabolic status, influences how you partition, how you partition everything, how you partition calories, how you partition linoleic acid into different biomolecules. So I emphasize this because I want people to be thoughtful, just like applying it to their own life. What food are we talking about? And what is my metabolic status? If you have pre-existing obesity and you're eating a mixed macronutrient diet, maybe you shouldn't be cooking. I would think you shouldn't be cooking with corn oil. I'm going to agree with you on that. Your lean, healthy keto are, 2 ounces of walnuts bad for you? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's a different situation, yeah.
Oh, I agree. And I think that's really, those are extreme examples.
Yeah.
But they highlight a very important point.
Yeah, I think most of what I think is important about this conversation is the presumably oxidized, refined bleach and deodorized seed oils.
Okay.
Yeah.